from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, China imposes duties on U.S. sorghum. The I-80 planting tour continues.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. It's a slow start here in Northwest Ohio. We'll update you on conditions later during our I-80 planting tour.
In agribusiness, analysis from the floor.
One thing that should be noted, when we have had these rallies in the wheat on weather concerns, it seems like exports really start to fall off very quickly.
And investing in the future of forests in Tennessee.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffish. The National Sorghum Producers Trade Group is expressing disappointment this morning after the Chinese government imposed what amounts to a tariff on U.S. sorghum shipped into that Asian nation. A preliminary ruling by China's Commerce Ministry says U.S. sorghum was being sold at improperly low prices, hurting Chinese farmers, something the National Sorghum Producers is denying. China ordering importers of U.S. sorghum to post bonds of nearly 179% of the value of their goods to cover possible anti-dumping duties while the probe is completed. Now, China is one of the biggest foreign markets for U.S. sorghum growers. NSP saying it has cooperated fully with China's investigations, including submitting several thousand pages of data showing that U.S. sorghum is neither dumped nor causing any injury to China. But quoting now, none of this information appears to have been seriously considered or used in the preliminary determination, which is neither fair nor appropriate.
We've had a great relationship with our Chinese buyers. This case was not initiated by our customers, and certainly we want a fair record and a fair case to move forward.
China launching the investigation in February in what some people saw as a warning shot after President Donald Trump hiked tariffs on Chinese-made washing machines and solar modules. Since then, Trump has threatened to raise duties on up to $150 billion worth of Chinese goods in a dispute over technology policy. Beijing has responded with its own list of U.S. goods for possible retaliation. Now, sorghum is used for animal feed in China's growing protein sector. Sorghum farmers like Justin Knopf said the tension and talk around trade impacts prices on the farm.
The farm bill is important to me, crop insurance is important to me, but what's most important is that I have a buyer for my products. Keep in mind the real impact that rhetoric has. I know he keeps saying he's going to get a great deal, but in the meantime, there's a lot of heartburn happening on how we're going to be profitable when our commodities are dropping 10 to 20% based on rhetoric that's happening around trade.
He says sorghum prices dropped 20% in a matter of days after China initially launched the countervailing and anti-dumping duties investigation into U.S. sorghum. The International Monetary Fund issuing a warning that rising trade tensions between the U.S. and China could undermine a global economy that the IMF believes should otherwise grow solidly this year. The lending agency keeping its forecast for worldwide growth this year at 3.9%, which would be its fastest pace since 2011. But the IMF says the bright outlook could be derailed by a major conflict in trade. It's predicting that the U.S. economy will grow at 2.9% this year, up from the 2.7% it had forecast in January. And the IMF says that strong growth is fueled by the president's tax cuts. The National Weather Service says high temperatures, low humidities, and heavy winds have Oklahoma's wildfire threat at its highest point in a decade. Wildfires have killed 2 people in western Oklahoma over the past week. Weather officials say Tuesday's conditions represent the most potential for the spread of wildfires in the past 10 years. They used a database to consider a variety of factors. The temperatures were projected to reach the mid-90s with humidities below 10% and winds gusting over 40 miles an hour. More than 400,000 acres have burned so far. Officials say hundreds of miles of fencing has been destroyed. Numerous cattle, livestock, and wildlife have been killed or hopelessly maimed during the fires, and the threat isn't over.
With the wind changes, with lower humidities, increased wind speeds, higher temperatures, and so we're trying to get some things secured.
The Weather Service says rain and thunderstorm chances will increase Thursday night and Friday, with strong to severe storms possible in southwestern Oklahoma and western North Texas on Friday.
The I-80 planting tour, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
This week's I-80 planting tour stops in Northwest Ohio, where cold temperatures and snow are keeping farmers out of the field. Some farmers reporting 2 inches of snow over the weekend. The weekly crop progress report shows no corn is planted in the state, which is a common thread across I-80. This recent snap of cold, damp weather playing like a broken record. Betsy Gibbon takes a trip to Northwest Ohio to check out conditions.
Clinton, like much of the Corn Belt, it's slow moving here in a chilly Northwest Ohio, as farmers say spring has yet to arrive.
You'll check all these press wheel bearings here.
Eric Klein knows a thing or two about farming.
I used to wear the knees out of my pants pushing the toy John Deeres around on the carpet, so I was working ground when everybody else was playing Little League.
The one-man show.
My sprayer is, a 94, and it was a custom applicator sprayer before I bought it, so it's got a lot of wear and tear on it. I got a backup plan.
Now entering his 40th year of farming, a big milestone during a minimal start to 2018.
Have you done any field work or any spraying this year?
I haven't done anything, no.
Down the road is Nate Like.
I've been farming for probably 15, 20 years.
Another farmer facing the same dilemma.
And this year's just been cold. I mean, this is the coldest I've seen it for a long time.
Farmers say while 2018 has been cool, the memory of last year still stings. It started with a downpour of rain on early planted crops.
Last year we planted corn early. Now I'm out there planting corn. It's cold, it's wet, and they're calling for a big cold rain to come in for a 3-day event. And I literally shut the tractor off right where it was.
And a lot of guys are nervous from last year. We like to plant our crop and have it come up once.
I don't know how many replant claims we've had last year. That was probably our biggest year ever for replant claims. And prevent plant claims, we have had a few of those, not as many last year as we have had in a few of the previous years. Crop insurance helped a lot.
All the corn I planted after that was better. It just out-yielded it. The other corn just struggled. Our stand wasn't very good.
Like does not mind planting a little later after his string of struggling growing seasons.
2 years ago, or 3, if memory serves me correct, that a lot of guys didn't get corn planted until June. That was the best corn anybody could plant.
And even the veterans like Klein are ready to wait it out.
It's getting so expensive to do this that you want to do it right once.
Because experience tells him there's still a lot of growing season left.
I got 40 years under my belt, and I'm like, I've never had a complete disaster. So I always think, well, we'll do it somehow,
Reporting for AgDay, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
All right, thanks, Betsy. Klein is leaning heavy on soybean acres this year. Like is planting more corn due to his livestock. However, Like sells seed and says his customers in Northwest Ohio are planting more soybeans. Ohio isn't the only state off to a slow start. Mike Hoffman explains. Today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. We got this photo from John Piaski in Sibley County, Minnesota. That's in the southern part of the state. He's out checking soil temperatures on a snowmobile. He's joking, of course. The latest crop progress report from USDA says there were no days suitable for field work over the last 2 weeks. There's been no corn planted yet. The 5-year average is 3%. Sugar beets are usually 18% complete. Fields remain at 0. The same is true for oats, barley, and spring wheat. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see how it is going to be pretty windy through the central portions of the country over into the Ohio River Valley. Also, as we head through tonight, we'll see that wind shift eastward into the Great Lakes and the mid-Atlantic states, but not too bad as you look at the western states until afternoon. Gets a little bit windy in the southwestern portions of the country. We'll check your forecast coming up in a few minutes, but first here are some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, perspective on market activity from the floor of the CME in Chicago, and later, investing in future forests of Tennessee. We'll see how these researchers are working to restore trees in the volunteer state. In agribusiness, one of our favorite analysts spent Tuesday on the trading floor at the CME, Joe Vaklovic, sharing his thoughts on markets and potential direction in today's analysis.
The wheat market traded both sides of unchanged here on Tuesday. USDA gave us a fresh set of weekly crop ratings on Monday afternoon, and it was kind of a mixed bag. We did improve slightly in the good to excellent category, but also saw a larger percentage of the wheat crop, the winter wheat crop, rated poor to very poor, so kind of some mixed signals from USDA. Now, the biggest thing surrounding action in the wheat market this week is probably the weather forecast. We have a forecast for a very significant rain system to pass through the driest areas of the southern plains this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The driest areas of Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma should see very widespread coverage, anywhere from an inch up to 3 inches of rain in a lot of these areas. Some of these areas haven't seen rain in months, so this could very well be a drought-busting event and has had a particularly bad impact on the Kansas City wheat market, which has been under quite a bit of pressure here. One thing that should be noted, when we have had these rallies in the wheat on weather concerns, it seems like exports really start to fall off very quickly, and that's one of the problems with the U.S. wheat market. We just have a very, very tough time competing on the world market, and that's been the case here with this recent rally that we've seen. As the market goes higher, we just seem to lose export demand very, very quickly, so it's another factor that may continue to cap rallies here. The live cattle market was mostly higher here, mixed to higher trade on Tuesday. We had a very strong cash cattle trade late last week. We traded cash after the futures closed on Friday as high as 122, and that would have been up from 117 to 118 the previous week. So we did find the futures market opening sharply higher on Monday, kind of a poor close on Monday, but we found some strength here again on Tuesday. Now, the rally attempts, if you want to call them that, have not been able to sustain as well as the bulls would like. We'd like to see some follow-through buying amid this better cash trade, but for the moment here, the market may be not performing as well as some people would have liked. It should be noted that managed money has been net sellers of live cattle futures for 7 consecutive weeks now. We've seen net selling in that market, so maybe this will be the week that finally breaks the streak here, but in general, the trend has been that managed money has been pushing this market lower by liquidating long positions. Again, Joe Vick from CME Group here in Chicago.
For more information about Standard Grain and its services, call Joe at 312-462-4438.
Welcome back to AgDay. Here, meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, looking at the Ruzo moisture map, you can see there's kind of a have and have-nots here. Lots of wet areas, but lots of dry areas too.
Unfortunately, that's the way it works out many times, but you can see all the wet areas that have developed in the eastern parts of the country. And that area extends from the Gulf Coast all the way through the Ohio, Tennessee valleys into the Great Lakes. And, of course, combine that with the chilly temperatures, especially in the northern part of this area, and there's just nothing going on. Dry conditions from Missouri back into West Texas. Of course, the drought is really getting bad in that part of Texas as well, back into the Four Corner region. Also fairly wet conditions despite long-term drought. We're seeing wet conditions in the root zone, western Dakotas, but especially on into Montana through the northwestern portions of the country. Here's the map this morning. We have one main storm system, not nearly as strong as the one that's exiting New England, but that's going to be moving off to the east, bringing some rain and some snow on the northwest part of it once again, because that air is still pretty cold. Next storm system isn't that strong. It's going to dive pretty far south as well, and that's going to be a slow mover. You can see that as we head through tonight. We'll start to see a little bit of rain even into Southern California, with snow farther inland in the higher elevations. The eastern system then, rain and snow once again. It'll be mainly snow through the eastern Great Lakes by tomorrow morning, and then heading through the day tomorrow. That storm quickly shifts offshore, but there's still some lingering rain and snow back to the west of it. A little bit of moisture coming up across Mexico into New Mexico as we head through tomorrow afternoon out ahead of that next system. This actually has potential to give some of those drought areas some moisture, so we're kind of hopeful for that as we head through the rest of this week, because that's going to be a slow mover. Precipitation estimate past 24 hours, light amounts, northern plains, northwest, and the northeast. Adding in the next 36 hours, we'll see still fairly light amounts. Some areas might get a ½ inch of moisture, either rain or melted snow from Iowa through the southeastern portions of the Great Lakes. Snowfall estimates then, you can see that moves across Iowa into southern Wisconsin and parts of the Great Lakes region over the next 36 hours. The warmth is going to be going away. Still pretty warm in the southeast, but chillier farther to the north. You can see tonight, though, that cold air pushes southward, so it's pretty chilly even into northern Mississippi and out Alabama. High temperatures tomorrow afternoon, boy, the 70s and 80s have been shoved way to the south, as you can see there. Jet stream not showing any Arctic air mixed in anymore, but we are seeing these slow-moving cutoff systems that can produce some decent moisture in places, but also keeps the Arctic air kind of bottled up. Still chilly, though, in a lot of places. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Amarillo, Texas, breezy and mild with sunshine, high of 70 degrees. Vincennes, Indiana, mostly cloudy, windy, and rather warm, high of 68. And finally, Williamsburg, Virginia, a mixture of sunshine and clouds, afternoon high around 75.
All right, when we come back, we'll look at a new lettuce warning from the CDC. That's next on the Packer TV, and later, Charles Denny.
The University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture teams with the Tennessee Valley Authority to restore a forest on this land. We're planting red oaks next on AgDay.
In news from the Packer, the Centers for Disease Control has linked 35 illnesses in 11 states to an E. coli outbreak stemming from romaine lettuce. The agency may add 2 more states after laboratory testing is completed. The CDC's investigation points back to bagged chopped salad from Arizona. The Food and Drug Administration has not named a specific company, and at this point, there's no official recall. Still, some retailers have removed bagged romaine from their shelves. Meanwhile, looks like domestic melon season is getting close. The Packer reporting that growers expect production to start by mid-May. Some California melons will be shipping May 1st, a few days behind schedule because of cooler weather this season. Meanwhile, in the southeast, watermelon production out of Florida is also likely to begin in mid-May. A warm February and cold March has made for an interesting start to the year. Meanwhile, one of the hottest trends in the melon industry is the fresh cut market. Packers say consumers continue to demand highly flavorful fruit with a priority on taste. Marketers reporting to the Packer that tastier fruit can prompt higher sales and repeat customers. A representative from Del Monte saying that melon varieties suited for fresh cut are helping increase the overall per capita consumption of melons. All right, when we come back, restoring forests in Tennessee.
Your vote could help a community organization win $10,000 and send a farmer on a dream sports trip. Vote now and help make dreams come true at powertodomore.com. Sponsored by Resicor Corn Herbicide. In the Country. Sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Did you know it only takes a Tennessee landscape 1 generation to go from grassland to a thick forest? And that's the hope of a new project by UT's Institute of Agriculture and the Tennessee Valley Authority. They're working to restore oak trees near a TVA dam. Charles Denny has more on the history and the future of an effort to plant future forests.
A hillside gets a new beginning, the birth of a forest almost from scratch. The Tennessee Valley Authority has a long partnership with the UT Institute of Agriculture and now another ambitious project. Foresters and students are planting 700 red oaks on TVA's Norris Dam Reservation in Anderson County. The trees will be protected by cages a few years to keep hungry deer away.
Northern red oak is what we call a fine hardwood species, and that's one of the most valuable hardwood species. Relatively fast-growing oak, good for timber, of course good for wildlife too.
Scott Schlarbaum leads UTIA's tree improvement program. Here back on the Knoxville Ag campus, the planting crew sorts the trees. Expectations are high for this crop of red oaks.
This orchard will produce acorns that will have another increment of genetic improvement, and then will be used eventually for mass reforestation in the Tennessee River Valley and also in eastern Tennessee and other associated areas.
This site has been treeless for a while now, but it has history. This area used to be covered by hardwoods and loblolly pine until about 15 years ago. Now the experts believe the red oak should thrive here.
The seedlings are about a year old and come from good stock, descendants of a past orchard. Here's footage from 2011 of TVA's work with UTIA at Watauga Lake near the Cherokee National Forest in Carter County. The trees going in the ground now at Norris were from a collection of seeds from the Watauga site, first planted nearly half a century ago.
So in a way, these seedlings are coming back home to TVA.
TVA experts say their organization has a mission to replant the valley, and it won't be long before the public can enjoy this forest. A landscape can dramatically change and reappear with the right planning. And this future forest is the result of work done today and in the past. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Thanks, Charles. He says TVA will also plant sugar maples and hemlock trees in the Norris Dam area in the coming months. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Spend part of your day with us. For Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.